I hope this thing doesn't stop recording. I literally just shot a commercial video for a company, and I used the Osmo Mobile 3, which really helped out because the iPhone has kind of like a wider screen. So I'm going to take my chances with this one. I've been thinking about an idea a lot that is definitely worth discussing, because to me, as I grow consciously and I expand my awareness, I realize how unnecessary a lot of things are. And so, let's go. I've been noticing reoccurring patterns in my life within the past, I want to say, year or so. And specifically, this pattern has dealt with getting frustrated about the outcome of something, because it's not, I want to make sure I say this correctly. I want it to be a certain way, and I feel that if it's not that way, there's something to be upset about. But what's interesting about this is that even if there is something to apparently be upset about, which is usually regarding or catering to ego, because the ego doesn't really understand satisfaction or even fulfillment. Satisfaction is pretty much a word of the ego. What I'm trying to get at here, though, is that I'll put a case in point. Last night, my girlfriend and I went to go see It Chapter 2, which was a fantastic movie, by the way. Not advertising for it, just, well, I am, but this is not a paid advertisement. And so we had tickets for a specific time, and I was getting frustrated that we actually had to change the ticket times to go see a different time because we got there late because something else happened beforehand, because life just happens. And so we got there, and I realized this kind of mask or face that was like coming over me, and it was very stern and straight and just kind of like not accepting the present moment as it was. And then I realized how ridiculous it was to be that way. And so then I realized how an hour later, that same feeling that I was experiencing in the moment wasn't even there anymore. And this kind of like threw me into an expansive thought mode. And I was like, well, if that isn't there an hour later, how important is that in the moment? So I think what's most important to do is realize that if it's not important so far into the future, how on earth is it even possibly important in that moment? Don't get me wrong, as a psychology student, I understand that grade A psychology regards being congruent with your emotions in the moment. However, what I do believe in is that it's important not only to be congruent with your emotions, but not to identify with your emotions. Because when you identify with your emotions, there becomes this, you and your emotions become one. And it's important to find a separation. I'm sorry if you hear someone outside, by the way, someone's arguing. It's important to find that separation between you and the emotion, because emotions are experiences, going back to metaphysics, of course. And so, now that guy's yelling, as Eckhart Tolle would coin, the pain body has come out of its dormant stage. So getting back to what I was talking about, if it's not as important as we think it is to be in that state of mind in the moment, because an hour later it won't even matter, we should work more towards getting out of that spatial, that didn't even make sense. I was trying to say spatial awareness, and into this idea of impermanence and understanding that these things really don't matter. And if we could step away from that style of living, break free from that apparent prison, which, kind of is, we could allow ourselves to come into a more beautiful, free life. Because what's interesting about it also, I'm going to finish up here, we don't feel good about those kinds of experiences, especially right after they happen. It's like, wow, why did I react that way? That was completely unnecessary. And then an hour later, we're not even thinking about it because it's irrelevant, because most things of the ego are both irrelevant and unnecessary, in a spiritual way, of course. But I think that it's important that we learn to monitor that, be aware of that in the moment, and realize that in an hour, in a week, it's going to be erased from our consciousness. So it's just really, for lack of a better word, not necessary. So we need to move into this space of observing and understand that if people give us a hard time for taking a long time to observe it, it's all part of the awakening process, and it is a really, really beautiful thing. My friends, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. I literally have been thinking about this idea for the past few days, and I really wanted to make a video on it, so this is it. Much love. Peace.